Okay, so because I want to actually be as straightforward and as honest as possible with anything that I do, I decided after I did my video about the change sucker and all of this stuff, I would give this new Avatar live action series a watch. There are 8 episodes, so I figure, okay, I'll do a part 1 with the first 4 episodes, and I'll do a part 2 with the final 4 episodes, sorry, then I will give my rating. So that's what I'm gonna do. This is the first part of it. And let me just say, it wasn't easy to get through this, people. I mean, it was really freaking hard to get through this. Oh my God, wow. So without further ado, let's dive right into this. The first episode was difficult. I had to stop, come back about 3 to 4 times to get through the first episode because, my God, the acting in it is terrible. There's no other way to put it. It is just terrible. It's like these people were told what they wanted to do, who they were supposed to play, but they were also told, okay, don't be exactly like this character. Let's try and make it a little more like this and stuff. So you could see them struggling to get it even going. Now, I'm not a complete moron. I do understand that, if you're going to do a live action thing, you're not going to have to do it exactly comparison with what it is going on. You're going to have to make certain slight changes here and there with the story. I do understand that. But you have a story to work with. You have characters to work with. You have to know how these things are supposed to blend, but you don't do that. And this is where we get the trouble. So the whole thing starts off now. The first episode kind of had a weird Game of Thrones-like vibe to it, in my opinion. We start off with the Fire Nation wanting to go to war with everybody else. The so-called king who had Fire Lord, I should say, who killed the previous Avatar, which basically left him to die, whatever. He wants to attack people. So, they allow some people to think that they're going to go after the Youth Kingdom or something, when in fact they're going to go after the Airbenders. So we get to meet Aang and Aang is there and all this stuff and the other. And, he's trying to be Aang as much as possible. He is trying to be Aang, but it's kind of hard on this. Like I said, the acting is a little cringeworthy. And he gets told that he is the Avatar and this and, things are going to have to change and this is what's going to have to happen. And the reaction is just so bad. It's like you're told you're the Avatar and they tell you have to do this. I mean, okay, Aang was like about what? In the anime, this was like about 10 or 11 years old. And when he found out that he was the Avatar, it was overwhelming and all that stuff. And then he decided to run away. We got that. He was a child, these things happen. But when it comes to this thing now, he's just like, you know what? I'm going to go somewhere to clear my head. Where is he going? We don't know. How far away is it? We don't know. I mean, I'm guessing if you ended up in the freaking South Pole, in the middle of a storm, you weren't just hopping next door to just cool out a little bit and come back. So it's kind of doesn't make much sense. But, as he leaves, like literally seconds after he leaves, the Fire Nation decides to attack the Airbenders. And okay, they've got the comet overhead and some of the firebenders seem to have a little bit more power. But honestly speaking, I don't understand why the Airbenders lost. I mean, they had superior maneuverability. The firebenders weren't that strong and they could have easily taken them out. The weird thing is that none of them escape, and I don't really understand why. I mean, I was expecting to see, how the Fire Nation did attack these airbenders and what they did. But the airbenders have no escape routes. They have gliders. They could have literally just taken up the children and jumped off the edge of the thing and flew away without the firebenders even being able to attack them. But no, they fight, and for some reason I don't understand why they're losing, because they literally have superior maneuverability. Their wind powers are taking down the firebenders, but then because they needed to lose, they suddenly are all getting burnt alive and massacred, and we're like wondering, well, what the hell is really going on? So Ang is flying on Appa for some reason now, Appa looks like a giant rug with a nose. It's not a good look at all. But he's flying there, the big storm, they get swept under, and boom, he encases them in ice and he goes into the avatar set and does that. Okay. So 100 years have passed, the Fire Nation is at war with everybody, we get that all right. So we meet Katara and Sokka. And remember how I said Sokka and they remove that part of the other? I will get to, I'll get more to that when I get to the second episode. But when we get there now, they don't seem like themselves. That's something that's prevalent throughout these episodes that I've watched. Katara doesn't have that fire in her that she used to have, the way that she would argue with Sokka and try to, think with it. It's not there. She's more docile and just kind of like, well, whatever thing. And then she doesn't even get angry, and that's what exposes the big bubble of the big ice thing that Aang is in. No, it just kind of happens because she's trying to use some water bending, and then suddenly it just happens, the ice cracks open, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's Aang. And then he just collapses. There's no moment where you see she goes to him, he looks up, he sees her, and you kind of see the kind of romance start to blossom there. There's none of that because I don't even think they're going to do that in this one, because if they did, it's going to be very freaking creepy, because Sokka looks like he's 21, Katara looks like she's 19, and Aang looks like he's about 10 or 11, so well, maybe 12 anymore. So that kind of comes off as like some kind of creepy statutory rape kind of thing. So it doesn't work. But not having that romance between the two of them is a problem because it's kind of a basis for the show. But whatever. So Aang goes back. So they take Aang back to the village. He wakes up, goes outside there. He's an airbender. And then, their grand tells him that, what happened and that, he's the avatar and all of this. And when he showed up now, then we get to meet Prince Zuko, who's looking for him. And the actor who plays him constantly walks around looking surprised for some reason, but whatever, he thing. So he comes there to the village, shows up, and decides he'll go with him, all of that thing play out. But then there's no point where Aang is escaping from. I mean, like, even then, when Aang, okay, even before that happens, Aang wants to find his bison upper. So he calls him, the bison just flies over. There's no build up to anything like that, it just flies over. They didn't see it before, but just flies over. When Aang is taken captive, Katara and Sokka decide to go after him, and they just jump onto the bison and fly off. Apparently, Appa will just let anybody fly him now for some reason, okay. Then they go back to that thing on the ship, they escape, Katara does some water bending, okay, they leave, fine, no problem. When we get to episode 2 now, this is kind of problem with that. I mean, the only thing they don't do in this episode is just outright kiss Kyoshi's ghostly ass. That's about it. They stop just short of calling her the greatest avatar ever. Because when we get to, when Aang goes to Kyoshi Island to try and get some information on whatever happens there, he meets the Kyoshi warriors who are there. Now, okay, remember I talked about Sokka and I said I'd explain more in the previous episode. The whole dynamic of Sokka's personality had some kind of sexism in it, but there was a reason for it and built on the character and all of this. When he does get to Kyoshi Island and he meets Suki and all of this stuff, there is nothing there to build on. It's just basically two horny teenagers who want to go at it Avatar style. That's pretty much it. Because even Suki doesn't, before she was this leader of the Kyoshi warriors and she had something that she was doing. All of that is gone and she's just replaced by this girl who keeps eye-raping Sokka at every moment that she gets. And my God, that face paint was scary, boy. Wow! He really didn't let up on that. I mean, it's nothing there. Sokka doesn't even have this moment where you know he thinks that he's such a great warrior and goes there and he gets humble, but he has to learn about it. No, he just immediately starts hitting on her. She immediately starts eye raping him, and before long they're just ready to go at it. That's about it. When Aang does finally go into the spirit world and ends up meeting Avatar Kyoshi, the only way to properly describe this woman is dragon face bitch. That's about it. She starts berating Aang for not being there, and he's the Avatar, and he doesn't know. I mean, like, she wasn't even alive when this war happened. But she's acting like, you know, she has been fighting it for so long. Aang can't do anything. He needs to grow up. This isn't that. I mean, Kyoshi was a strong warrior, honestly, but she was never like this. She when she had to what she had to do. Okay, these Avatar spirits are supposed to offer advice and, you know, some kind of knowledge to help Aang. They don't berate him and carry on about how, oh, you're failing everything, and if I was there, I would do it better. It's really stupid. And then even when Zuko and the rest of them come to the island to try and capture Aang, you understand me? What happens? Kyoshi just possesses his body, and then she shows up there as Kyoshi. You understand me? And starts wielding all the elements, and the CGI looks terrible. Really, really terrible. I mean, one thing what I do like though is that the firebenders don't have to use, I have to like, they could have, well, the firebenders could actually produce their own fire. In the M. Night Shyamalan movie, they couldn't do that. But, you know, this time around, they could actually produce their own fire. When the earth bending looks very, very fake. The air bending, you could pretty much see the strings if you look close enough. But, you know, I mean, the whole thing with Kyoshi wielding all that power, it just looked very, very fake. And it was like trying to push this female power narrative kind of nonsense. You really don't seem to understand what's going on. And then, of course, in the episode, now, they get up this army general or major or whoever that Zuko is working with sends news to Ozai that the Avatar is alive, and we get to see Ozai. Kind of a bad move bringing him in that early, but okay. Then we also get to see Azula. Why is Azula there? I don't know. But for some reason, she is. Azula is not a character you bring in now. Azula is a character you bring in like in the second season. This season is supposed to build up Zuko to be the main antagonist, but that doesn't happen. So after all of that happens, now they leave the island, all of this stuff, the horny teenagers kiss, okay, good. When they're going to Omashu now, when they're going to Omashu, they end up needing help to get into the city. They meet Jet. Katara is clearly smitten. Aang thinks he sees another airbender, but it's just some kid in a wheelchair with some flying stuff. Even though and his father is an inventor, they weren't even supposed to be there, but again they changed up the story for whatever reason. So when they end up in there, that is you get once again to see a problem that's going on with Sokka. When they removed Sokka's personality, basically, if you could put it, he's just basically become this everyman. Like every episode, he just finds his way into something. The first episode, he was trying to be this protector, this kind of thing. The other kind of was a fight. Second episode, horny teenager, do this and the other, okay. Then in this episode, he kind of wants to be, he kind of has like knowledge to be this sort of engineer and that, which you know we understand happened in the comic, in the cartoon. But it was done differently and actually worked with Sokka's personality. It doesn't work here. Sokka was quickly becoming the most boring person in this show for some god-awful reason, whatever. But then we get to find out now that the boy whose father is some kind of mechanist, he's giving information to the Fire Nation to keep Omashu safe. And we get to find out Jet now. And the thing is, Jet is the only person in this episode that kind of actually acts like himself. You know, fighting the Fire Nation, but when it turns out though that he's pretty much crazy and he's perfectly happy to kill anybody, that he has to, just to bring down the Fire Nation. You understand me? The only time in this episode that Katara and Sokka kind of felt like themselves was when they were arguing, and Katara actually did argue with him that you can actually feel a little bit of the Katara fire in there. And then when Sokka makes this reference that he doesn't need her help to be an idiot, you kind of get that reference to the whole Sokka. Okay, he was good with that. So Jet and his crew wants to kill the king and all this stuff, Katara, and them end up stopping him. And then Zuko and his uncle sneak into Omashu. They find Aang, and Zuko starts chasing him around, and they have to do it. And only during that chase scene did I actually feel like, okay, this is Aang and Zuko. Because that's usually how it works. Aang would avoid him and run around, and Zuko would get pissed off. It was fun. It was a fun dynamic, and you kind of got that there. But when Zuko accidentally loses his cool and uses firebending, his uncle takes the rap for him so he could escape. Okay, we get to the 4th episode now. And when we get to the 4th episode, Aang has been captured. The Uncle Iroh has been captured. And then, Aang goes to see the king, and it turns out to be his friend Bumi. This was a bad move by them. I will explain why. Had it been done in such a way that, he didn't know who Bumi was, and maybe he had his friends captive and I was trying to teach him a lesson, okay. But it's not happening. Bumi is like this crazy man who has been fighting this war for over 100 years, and it just made him pretty much stop caring or having any kind of hope at all. You understand me? And you're supposed to be a member of the White Lotus, but God forbid, whatever. So Sokka and Katara decide that they want to go and save Aang, so they decide to use the tunnels underneath Omashu to get in there. When they go into the tunnels now, they meet the same people who used to be in the cave singing about secret tunnels. And I'm like, why are you here? Shouldn't you be further down in the show? But anyway, they're down there having this ball, and then, obviously he tells Sokka to pick up this thing and shake it. And like I say, Sokka's become like the everyman. He just falls into whatever role is met there, but whatever. Then he tells them that, there are these tunnels under there and they could use them. Then he tells them the history of Omashu. Apparently there were these two lesbians who loved each other and they couldn't be together, so they made the tunnels to come and see each other. And then when one died, another one got angry, brought the war to an end, and then established a system. They called it Omashu because one was called Oma, one was called Shu. I'm not sure why you would tell brother and sister that story and then you tell them that, only love could lead the way, which is creepy in itself. So they go into the tunnels, they're moving around, they can't meet each other, they start arguing a little bit and all of this stuff. And then they end up realizing that the tunnels are changing, they're blocking off all kind of thing. And what do they find? These giant badger moles. Apparently the badger moles are the ones that first learn earthbending and told it to people and all of this now. Starts chasing them, they stop their whole hands with it to die, and then the badger mole doesn't attack them till the badger mole is blind and it senses love. It's a stupid thing. Wouldn't it have made more sense to have, like, I don't know, Aang and Katara down there, maybe having Aang make some kind of connection to the badger mole and all of that? No. Then let us ask the badger mole to show them the way, and it does, okay. Meanwhile, Aang is with Bumi, who is once again still a lunatic, trying to show him that, he abandoned the world and all that. And I'm like, people, he's a child. What the hell? Like, anyway, after trying to trap him in some rock candy, he then takes him into an arena and decides to fight him. And honestly, to God, Bumi's earthbending looks terrible. Just like the rest of the earthbending kind of looks really terrible. Really terrible. And then, even when the ceiling starts to fall, and Aang is using his airbending to hold up not only this thing from crushing him, but also from crushing Bumi. Bumi's like, let's let it fall. So you want to kill children and yourself. that's what you want. I'm not sure who they're making this show for anymore, but Austin killed Troy himself, but luckily Sokka and Katara stop him. I mean that even in this episode, Katara uses ice bending. Basically, she just uses water and just to the ice to trap Jet when he was trying to get that. I don't know when she learned that, because like an hour before that she could barely do a water whip, but whatever. And they stop it, and then Bumi tells them that they have to leave the city because the Fire Nation is coming and all of this. Prince Zuko ends up rescuing his uncle, and they go. And I'm like, it's really hard to get through these episodes, people. Like, it was really, really hard. And just going into it so far, I am not impressed with what I'm seeing. Really not. But there are 4 more episodes to go. I will endeavor to watch out the other 4, and then after that I will give my rating on this. But so far, that's what we've got. In my opinion, none of these people seem like themselves. I'm not sure who they're trying to be. The acting is not all that great. The story is supposed to be making sense, but certain changes that they're making are just not having the desired effect. So we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you have a different opinion, I'd love to hear it. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Ring the notification bell. You'll be notified every time I post a new video. And I shall see you all next time. Take care.